Hello, everybody. Welcome to SDEV 248, Advanced Simulation and Game Design. Hopefully this is going to be a really fun class. I really enjoy making games. It'll be a lot of fun. That's mostly what we're going to do this semester is just make lots of games, design lots of games. A number of things we'll look at over some stuff. Kind of a slow start today. We're going to go over the syllabus, policies, take a preview look at some of the software we'll be using, make sure everybody gets that installed, and we'll get into more, get into things a little more in depth starting Wednesday. One thing about the course shell, I don't know how many people have got on Ivy Learn and started looking through that. I am currently developing the shell for Ivy Online, which will start in the fall. So I did put a rush on it. So my deadline for that's April 27th. I put a rush on it to get almost everything typed up and ready for our class so we can use it here and check for typos and stuff. So as I was rushing there's a good chance there might be typos and stuff. If you see typos or for the question banks for the knowledge checks, it's easy to, from sitting there for hours copying questions over from a Word document in there and selecting which one's the correct answer. It's really easy to click the wrong one. So if you see anything like that seems off, please let me know immediately. That's why we're using the course shell, this particular course shell instead of the one that I've taught this class with the last 3 years. It is based off that, and it also it is going to change slightly. So right now it is the exact version. I think I added the attendance and participation points. The only everything else is exactly like they have Ivy Online. And there are a couple things that are different in class. There's at least one writing assignment I always give. It's really short, easy one. Most people knock it out in an hour the last day of class when they remember that it's due before the end of the semester. So just be aware there will be some changes to the course shell to adjust from the online setting to the classroom setting. But anytime there's a change, I'll make sure and let y'all know. But yeah, and if you notice any typos, errors in the question banks on the knowledge checks or anything else like that, sorry, my computer just decided it was going to restart. Okay, there we go. Tomorrow, go wait a minute. That's better. Okay. Yeah, glad I was standing there to notice the notification. It was like, oh, restarting to do updates, and then had a countdown timer for a couple seconds.
That's another reason I prefer Linux, because it doesn't force. Usually, it doesn't force you to restart or anything.
Yeah, I'll schedule it for the middle of the night. This is the computer that stays in my office all the time, anyways. Yeah, so basically, we are. Everybody here should have had the 148 class and a little bit more programming since the prerequisites for that one. So, and the intro, 148 is introduction to game development, and the 248 is advanced simulation game design. So in the 148 class, there's a lot of following tutorials, step-by-step tutorials, and you're just kind of go through the motions that they tell you to go through. In this class, the assignments here are a lot more objective based. So it's just like, okay, here, make this game, and then it's on you to figure out how to write the code instead of the tutorial telling you what the code needs to be. We'll look at that as we go along. Yeah, let's start by just checking out some key points in the syllabus and policies and stuff. For those who have had me in class before, I'm pretty consistent with the course policies, due dates, and all of that. So hasn't really changed in a while. So if you haven't had me in a couple semesters, it did clean up that big, huge mess of things in the syllabus. So trying to describe all the variety and due dates. If you haven't had me before, keep an eye on the due dates, because especially if you're might be running late on anything, because some things can be accepted, some things will be accepted late and some things won't. So make sure you keep up on if you're start to run behind or something, make sure you turn in the ones that won't be accepted late first, so you don't miss out on those. So here's the homepage has information about me. There's my office number. I need to put my cell phone number on there. Apparently I copied and pasted incorrectly of the phone numbers. The cell phone is the quickest way to get a hold of me. Y'all know how it is. Every device we have wants to send us tons of notifications about everything. So during the semester, when classes are running, the only two things that make noise on my phone are text messages and Ivy Learn inbox messages. So those are the two quickest ways to get a hold of me. Any other way works. You can call my office, and if I'm not sitting in the office, it just automatically emails me the voicemail. So I'll see that before long. And I don't get notifications about email, but I check my email 20 times a day, so it won't be long till I see it. But the official communication channel for the course, the Ivy Learn inbox, that and text messages make noise on my phone. So those are the best ways to get a hold of me. I'll add that to the homepage here. There's office hours, which that's what's listed as student facing office hours on the schedule. I have to turn into administrators and stuff and color code everything. And I'm in my office a lot. I'm pretty much in my office from 10:30 to 7, Monday through, well, that is 10:30 to 7, Monday through Thursday. And oftentimes I end up having to be here about 8:30. So I'm in my office quite a bit. And on Friday, I'm usually here from 10 to 4. So don't think that these are the only times you can reach out to me. Anytime you have a question, reach out immediately. I'm always happy to help. I don't have a whole lot else going on in my life. And for for class, we have this link. Looks like everybody was able to find it. And for any office hours, or if it's 10 o'clock on a Friday night and you're working on homework and have hit a problem, and reach out to me and we hop on a Zoom call. It'd be this second link here, the office hours link. So over the syllabus. A few key points. This one has my cell phone, so yeah. Text messages are the quickest way to reach me, but the Ivy Learn inbox also makes noise on my phone. So either one of those, I'll know about immediately. Some key points there. Y'all can read. We don't need to go through everything. Learn Anywhere class. So Mondays and Wednesdays we'll be here. I'm recording the lectures. I had stopped recording the lectures, but since I'm making this course shell for Ivy Online right now, I thought it might be good to go ahead and record the lectures and post them on YouTube somewhere, so that put them out there so that people can find them if they're struggling through the class in an online format. And one more resource that'll hopefully help them. There's of course outline record, all the stuff we're going to learn. I just like to pause here and take a moment. Every course you take at Ivy Tech is going to have this section in the syllabus, the major course learning objectives. It's basically a checklist of things we're going to learn in this course. And this isn't the prerequisite for anything else. But in some of your classes, you're just taking it because it's a prerequisite for the classes you actually need to take. And in those cases, when you get into the class, when you get into the subsequent class, they're going to assume that you know all the major learning objectives. So in all of your classes, when you get near the end, you always want to take a moment and look back at this list and make sure you feel like you learned the things you were supposed to learn from a class. And if not, those are the questions you want to make sure and ask, because when you get to the next class, the instructor is going to assume that you learned all those objectives from the previous class. So Mostly we're doing this, design, code, edit, compile, test, and debug programs. We'll have quite a few of them. There's gonna be graphics are a part of it, right? This is first one was developed, this was designed. So there can be 3 big graphics assignments where there's like quality criteria. There's gonna be a lot of other stuff worked in where you have to make you'll make some of the graphics and finding assets on like itch.io or the Godot marketplace will be equipped for those, or AI art is iffy. Right, it looks amazing when it does a full picture with a fancy background, but when you take away the background so that you can like use the picture in your in a game, AI has a bit of trouble with that doing things without backgrounds, but some of them have gotten a little bit better.
And also most arts AI stuff is trained off of actual artist work. And most of those artists have not been asked for permission or paid or anything. So
Yeah. So there's the ethical issues on that. But it's out there. But I haven't wrote the actual number in the thing. I'm thinking probably like 50-50 mix, somewhere around there, maybe 40%, just to be your own work. You get practice because these 3 assignments, there's a 2D sprite sheet, a 2D skeleton animation, and a 3D skeletal animation that those will have criteria or quality criteria on them. So those are the 3 graphics things that you want to spend a lot of time on and work, and then the other ones you think of as practice for those that matter. Right? You just colored blocks and stickmen would be sufficient as long as you're making some of the art yourself. For the design aspects, right? Showing what colors you want, because that's often something the original game designer does. They'll do really simple pictures just to get the color palette there, and then they show that to the art department, and then they know what color palette to use and the theme that you're going for, and that sort of stuff.
But also, no animations means it's easier to see bugs.
Yes, and that's a big one. I was going to say that when we started working on it. Maybe we can use some examples. A little bit of distraction goes a long way. Somebody that's had me for the first game development class, or might remember me saying that a few times. Like stage magicians, right? They just say nothing up my sleeve and show you their left arm, and you won't pay any attention whatsoever to the right arm. But a little distraction goes a long way with humans. And in video games, great big bugs can hide behind tiny animations. It could be just like your idle animation on the character. He's just standing there waving around or something, rocking back and forth on his feet or her feet, waiting for the player to move it, and you won't even notice the stuff glitching out around it, because humans are easily distracted. I think everybody's well aware of that. So oftentimes the first draft of your game, it's best to do with still animations. Some people really say you should always do the first draft and get the code debugged with just colored boxes, blank rectangles and cubes for 3D stuff, and then bring in good graphics later. Personally, I like to do rough images that have the color palette and everything, kind of the generic shape that it's going to be, and then work on the other ones later. You already do what these are. So we do, I've said the name a couple times, simulation and game design. So for the simulation part, we are going to be working on an accurate simulation, which is mostly handled in the by the game engine. The part we have to worry about, again, comes back to the modeling. We need to make sure our model is actually accurate. What it's going to be is a pool simulation, a game of pool. So all of them will be rigid bodies, and then we have to actually apply a force to the cue ball and make that simulation happen. So we need our measurements and dimensions and mass and all of that to be accurate. That's the part we have to worry about in designing simulations. Which is another use for this skill set, engineering simulations. I would say really the only difference between if you're doing a realistic physics in a video game, only difference between that and the simulations that engineers need is we don't try to stop the engineer from running their simulation. Also archaeological reconstructions are another one that's a very, very similar skill set, especially with VR stuff, and museums really love VR stuff. So that's another good place to apply this. Oh yeah, which is another place that is going to change somewhat. I don't know how many people are close to Sellersburg, but in my office right across the hall from the computer lab, and I do have 12 VR headsets, and this is the class where we would write programs for those. So we'll look at that, and those close to Sellersburg might not come in on the VR days. That way you can actually test yours. I didn't put that in the online version because not everybody has a VR headset. So, but it's really easy. It's built into the game engine. A couple years ago, you might have heard that it went on the news for Facebook laying off 11,000. Which is really what it was. They finished standardizing VR, so it's all built in there, and we use it just like our other nodes, Godot, or Unity, or Unreal, or JMIP, or whichever game engine you're on. Which is another thing. While we're working on this, we're just using Godot for the example to learn the concept. What we really want to pay attention to is the concepts. That way we can go to another engine, go to Unreal 5, and the same concepts apply, just the buttons are in a different place. Might have some things have different labels, but the general structure of what we're using and how we put it together to make it a fun game is still the same. So try to keep that in mind. You want to make sure you're understanding the underlying concepts so you can go to any game engine and apply the things. Yeah, so here's what it's going to break down to. There's discussion boards. At least one of them from that's in the show right now is going to be changed because you mentioned AI. That's discussion boards are good for prompt engineering discussions. Work that in somewhere. Yeah, at least one of those is going to be changed, but it's not till later in the semester. There's 3 that I really like, and in the last 3 times I taught this class, it was almost all the discussion boards, but it's got some of the best discussions I've ever seen in any discussion board. And 2 of my degrees were entirely online, so I've seen a lot of discussion boards I'm not a fan of. But it's from, so it's a standard design methodology used by game development teams where one person comes up with a plot and everybody else describes how to tell it. So yeah, so like, and the prompt on these 3 discussion boards, I'll give you this little prompt. Right? This one, Farmer Bob has to grow crops and get them to town or farmer's market or something and sell them. And how would you tell this game? So come through here and the first one has examples. Maybe you think it should be a first person FPS game and farmers, bright colors, farmers running down the rows in the cornfield with fly swatter, chasing away insects and small animals, burning the crop. And could be an overhead strategy game. But how would you tell that story? What color palettes would you use? What general themes? What style of music would go best with it? There's 3 of those. Hopefully they'll be really, really fun. I've seen some great ones. Right. Maybe it should be a brightly colored, fast moving platformer, or it's something you could turn into a horror story. Right? Be creative with those. Yes.
The FPS example for that made me think giant eldritch bugs that you have to shoot with a shotgun or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, and then exactly that. It was like, okay, here's this plot, what's a good way to tell it? It's a standard methodology used by game development teams and works great in discussion boards, and it's better than some of the discussion boards that I've seen over the years.
Almost like a Doom style concept if you end up getting caught by them, where you end up going to some alternate world and have to escape.
Oh yeah, so that's next week's discussion board. If you want to go ahead and, it sounds like you got some ideas. If you want to go ahead and write on it. Another discussion board about game assets. Like I said, design is in the name of this class, so there is the art criteria. 3 that are going to be graded on the quality, and one of those 3 for this discussion board, pretty much get you ready to monetize this skill set. This class, and actually 148 can be done at 148 too. 148, 248, and that's the 153. Those are the 3 classes we can start making money with immediately. You don't have to wait till after graduation and get a job. I mean, 153, you just throw some ads on your website, and you can do that in your homework assignment and get paid when teacher goes in and grades the homework. I always show that in class. I don't know how many other people do it on the state. And then this, you don't have to wait till there's a finished game to sell. We can sell the assets for a game, or give them away for free and put a donate button there. And there's a lot of people that have a bunch of money that would much rather support indie developers than some of the big studios right now. And from my personal experience and other people I've talked to, the donate button seems to bring in a lot more money than a price tag these days. But on this discussion board, you'll take one of those graphics assignments and get all the way up where you need to hit the publish button. You can hit the publish button and put it out there for sale, but get up to that last step to release those assets. And when you're making a game, every time you make an object, make 2, then at least 2, keep the best one for your game and sell the other one. And then that helps to create a flow of money while you're money flowing in while you're building the actual game, because that can be a little time consuming at times. You don't want to wait that long for a paycheck if you don't have to. Okay, so Learn Anywhere class. Textbooks are problematic. The textbooks that are out there all seem to be focused on always a particular game engine, and they don't really get into the concepts. They don't explain what they're doing. It's like walkthrough tutorials, and they're just showing off the tools in the game engine, and they'll show 5 or 6 different ways to do the same thing, which makes it confusing. So for our reading assignments, I'm just going to go to the official documentation, which is really, really good in Godot or Godot, or however you want to pronounce it. It was originally made by Argentinians, so it should probably be the Spanish pronunciation, which would be Godot, but that doesn't roll off the tongue very well. And I feel like I've heard more people use sort of a French pronunciation on it and just drop the T. That's how I say it anyway. But you'll hear it pronounced in different ways. So yeah, the official documentation is great. We could kind of preview some of that. Let's see the modules. Each week it links to things. So like this first week, our assignment was a replica of the original Super Mario Brothers level 1-1. We'll talk about that more on Wednesday. But the documentation is great here. They just finished this 2 weeks ago. 4.4 just came out 2 weeks ago. So while I was putting the course shell together, I have some pictures of it and stuff. It's something that we'll see in the future. I think it's the previous page from this, right? Nope. It wasn't on that page. I included it in here. Oh, you can see it in the thumbnails. There's an orange box because whenever the next version the engine is coming out. They start updating the documentation early, that way the beta testers can confirm all the documentation is in order. So about a month, maybe 2 months before the next version comes out, they start updating it. And I always put this box on here, it says, here be dragons. And just to warn you that this is the new version that hasn't actually been released yet. And it links back to the old version, so it's always up to date. Really good tutorials and stuff. Since it's an international, very large international open source community that develops the software, the tutorials are usually written by the person that developed that that particular tool, and then edited by professional editors. So they're usually really good documentation, and their tutorials and stuff are very thorough, easy to follow, and yeah, they have a large team of professional editors went through them. So that's what the reading assignments will be, and there's going to be a knowledge check afterwards. A bunch of multiple choice questions. Call it a knowledge check, not a quiz, because very low stakes. It's the lowest scored thing in there. It's worth less points than the discussion boards even. But basically, I took those reading assignments, fed them into AI, and just asked it for so many questions about that. More questions than it's like 15 questions, but I just kept asking for 20 multiple choice and 6 true or false questions from those reading assignments. So that's where those are. If you notice any questions that just seem bad, I tried to read them all as I was doing that, but copying them over one at a time meant long hours sitting there staring at a screen. So I might have there's a chance I might have zoned off and skimmed over some bad questions or misread something. If questions seem questionable, please let me know and I'll just pull that out of the question bank. So breakdown on it. So we've got 2 individual coding assignments. And for those who've had me before, it's going to be the way I normally do game stuff, where we have 2 weeks to do it. And that's not to make it easier 1 week, because game development takes a very long time. So I didn't want to do small, trivial examples. I wanted to make sure we have some nice, good size stuff for y'all to put in your portfolios. So stretch it out over 2 weeks. So please don't put it off. 2 weeks is because it's expected to take 2 weeks, big projects. And then we'll do 2 group projects. They're small. So what these are is there'll be 1 level and then intro cut scene so that you can introduce the story. Then you make the level that kind of tells that story, plays through that story, and then 2 ending cut scenes, 1 for success and 1 for failure. Right, so not a whole lot, but we want to have good stuff to put in our portfolios. So make sure you spend plenty of time on those. Don't put them off to the end. Yes.
Something like in Dark Souls, when you die, be considered a cutscene.
Yeah. It's something the representation of it, and it doesn't have to be an anime cutscene. It's in the instructions and stuff. You can just put another level and just put a rich text label. That's it, right. Put some text on the screen that says what the story is, and then a start button. That's sufficient, and we're under tight time constraints, so it doesn't need to be fully animated. But yeah, that would the character animations when the player dies is a good cutscene, because all it does is it breaks out of gameplay to convey information to the user or player, I should say, instead of user. Well, we talked about simulations and engineering simulations, archaeological reconstructions. All of those use the same skill set, so I guess we could consider it user. And then a final project that you'll work on through the whole semester. It's obviously a lot bigger. Module 3, you'll send a proposal for the game you want to make. And I'll look at that proposal and either approve it or suggest some changes. Never had to tell anybody that's too small. It's almost always okay that there's no way you can finish that game in 8 weeks. So let's get this down to something smaller and make sure it's feasible to do in our time frame. And then you'll spend the whole semester working on that by yourself. The group work is like homework assignments, so small games. But we can do a lot more in a group because then we can divvy up the work. And right, if one person feels like their artistic skills are a little bit lacking, right, I might ask some questions about that at some point before the first group assignment to see who feels like the pretty solid artist or who's just a beginning artist, and make sure that we can line up our skill sets in the groups. If possible, we might just have to hit the random group assignment buttons. Due date. So this is the one. Everything's going to be due on the day that starts the next module. I always like to make sure there's a chance to ask questions in class. So like the module 1 due date is next Monday at midnight. That way, if you have any questions, right? Most people do their homework on the weekend. Do that, hit a question. You can ask that question when we get to class, and it's still before the due date. Homework and quizzes can be turned in late. So any of the game projects, you can turn those in late. There's a small automatic point deduction, goes down 3% per day until it hits 50%. No point in continue going. Once it's an F is an F, so might as well be a high F, so there's a better chance for recovery from it. But those can be turned in late. Quizzes for only 1 week. The game projects, you can turn those in late up to the end of the semester. And I'm pretty laid back, easygoing. If there's good reasons, right? Like you're like, okay, code works and stuff, but this is going to go in my portfolio, and I want to make sure that our artwork have more time just to piddle around on the artwork, and that sounds like a good reason to extend it. So I understand how life happens. So if something's going to be late, let me know. You got to put a statement there. In general, if you're like, oh, I'm not going to have this done by Monday, can I get an extension? It'll be a 3-day extension on projects and quizzes. Quizzes, you only have 1 more week to take. Actually, I have to change that. The knowledge checks. The word quiz sounds alarming, and those are very, very low stakes things. They're only like 15 points. If we scroll up here, all of them together are 105 out of over 1,000 points. So that wouldn't even take you down. If you skipped every quiz, you would still have an A. Just skipped every knowledge check. Very low stakes things. It's just to reinforce the reading, making sure you remember. Yeah. 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 So make sure you check the point value on stuff whenever you're right. If you get it a little bit busy. Discussion boards, I never accept late. In the name, discussion. If you showed up late to a party and your friends are like, oh, you just missed the best conversation ever, you missed it. You can't bring the conversation back up. If you're not there for the discussion, you're not there. It's not in the discussion. What those really are is an attempt in the traditional setting. Everybody would come to the campus at the same time, sit in the classroom together, and then walk back to the parking lot at the same time. Maybe stand around for a few minutes in the hall during break. And when you're talking to your classmates, they're like walking to and from the parking lot. A likely topic is the class that you're taking. And that sort of thing does contribute to the education and reinforcing the knowledge. And it is completely missing in online classes. That's where that came from. Doesn't do a very good job filling in on it, but I guess it's better than never interacting with anybody and learning how to speak about the subject that you're learning. I'm not a big fan of them. Like I said, 2 of my degrees were entirely online programs. And I have, I have posted and replied to way too many of those just completely pointless discussion boards. Things that should not be a discussion led. I know you all have seen them where they're like, oh, look up the definition of this and write a 250-word post. Then reply to your classmates. Like, how do you reply to them? How do you reply to that? So I'm not a big fan of them, but we looked at those 2 earlier. There's also this one later. From second language courses, a common thing is they say once you get the humor, once you understand the humor and get a joke in that language, then you're really understanding it. So I like to bring that into IT, and we'll just like share memes. And this is module 6, which find something about programming games. Find one and then create your own.
The only really response I can think of for something like the definition example would be, good job, you copy paste a definition, then wrote some garbage about it.
Yes, yes. If you get really bored, argue over whether Oxford or Webster's is the better dictionary to pull the definition from. Yeah, I do not like those, so that's why we have like those game design game things. Like, here's the plot of a story. What style choices need made to make this a really fun game? Sharing memes or setting up accounts on H.io and marketplace and trying to getting ready to start selling this stuff because there's only a few classes we can do that on. Set up assignments, discussion boards, and progress reports of project proposals and the progress report around module 5 or 6 to say how the project's going. Those don't get turned in late. So if you start to have a lot going on, make sure you do those assignments first, so you don't miss out on the points. I don't think we have any setup assignments in this class. Sometimes we actually give it free software and out. The game engine we're using, has everybody seen it before? Everybody use it in 148? I think it was just last fall that 148 switched to that. So some people may have had Unity if they did 148 online. Yeah, it doesn't even have an installer. They just give you a zip folder and it's right. The application is in there. You'll look at that here in a moment. Income policy, y'all can read a lot of this stuff. Yeah, I just didn't. Yeah. Yeah, versus like setting up a EC2 instance on AWS, right? There's a lot of steps to that. That's a lot of work. So you want to get some points for that, but for us, we're just unzipping a folder. There's not really a whole lot of setup. Y'all can read through a lot of this stuff, standard things. If anything needs escalated, the instructor supervisor will look for Elaine. She's the dean here. One day, yeah, you'll meet her in here one day because there's going to be a class visitor to talk about professional industry and stuff. Actually, we're probably going to have a couple of them in here. I like to do that. Get other perspectives of my own. Have people come in, tell you what they do and what the industry's like for them, tips and tricks and things. That way you're getting multiple perspectives with your school. A bunch of statements, disability services and accommodations. This class has a couple prerequisites that both have prerequisites themselves. So I assume this is nobody's first semester, but I still like to point this one out, especially for young people, freshly out of high school. If you have any sort of accommodation when you're a minor, the school handles that entirely. You never have to do anything, right? It's just always there. Once you cross that arbitrary line at the age of 18 or younger, if you're still in high school and taking college courses, you count as an adult as far as privacy laws. So at the age of 18, HIPAA and FERPA laws kick in, the health records and the education records and all that becomes private information. And if you're, say, still 16 and in high school and just getting the jump start on college courses, those privacy laws kick in. So the college does not automatically know about that like the high school does. So you do have to take the first step. You have to reach out to the disability coordinator. This is a Sellersburg course, so the link I have here is for the Sellersburg ones, but I have a document somewhere that has all of them around the state. So if you're not, you can reach out to me and I will get you the email for your local campus and support and things like that. Yeah, along the lines, everybody needs a little bit of help from time to time, so I like to point this one out. In our society, we know there's lots of help out there, but finding it can be quite a challenge, right? You have to start looking around, see what's there, and then dig around and try to find where the application is. Well, somebody sat down and did that, and they put together basically a database full of links to the application that's available. They categorized all the help programs across the state of Indiana, and then collected links to the application, so you can just go to one place to search for it. So I'll put in, I live in Clarksville, so I'll put in Clarksville zip code. And within a few miles of Clarksville's 2,392 help programs. Lots of help available in our society. I don't know how big the circle is. Yeah, somewhere within a few miles of it. So maybe you need help paying for a car. There we go. So veterans can get assistance with cars, critical financial assistance, urgent needs. So lots of help to pay for cars. Probably not a nice car in that case, but if you don't have any car, and that's a major inconvenience in our society. Food, every Ivy Tech has a food pantry, so that's probably at the top of the list. No shortage of food pantries. Let's see if this is still on. Help pay for gas. Yep, it's the list. So I guess people didn't know about it, but in 2020, the government set up a huge pool of money for anybody that worked in restaurants or bars and people that lived off tips and that were no longer making tips in 2020. The government set up a huge thing to help them pay for gas to get around and run errands and stuff. And the money from it hasn't been exhausted yet. So it's still going to be around until all that money is exhausted. So if you worked in a restaurant in 2020, there's still free government money out there for you. But that's a useful thing. So that's this link here in the Ivy Care section, the Ivy Assist on Aunt Bertha. Y'all can read through a lot of this. School can be stressful. We do have a mental health counselor here here on campus. She's here all day, every day. Somebody to talk to and help out whenever it gets overwhelming. I believe more than half of the campuses have them. So for those at other campuses, you might have to check there locally, or if you're not sure, I can try to track the information down for you. But I believe more than half do have counselors on staff. So there's often somebody to talk to. Free tutoring. I am in the tutoring center here at Sellersburg campus from 2 to 4 on Tuesdays and Thursdays if I don't have a meeting, but I have a lot of meetings. But I'm in there pretty regularly, so if you need help with it, there's obviously help with this class during the tutoring center, because whenever I'm in there, I'm the one here on campus, but I also log on to a Zoom call. I think I'll be in there almost every Tuesday, so it looks like right now. Some Thursdays are iffy. Like, I have to go to Indianapolis, 2-day trips to Indianapolis 3 times in April. It's a lot of, I guess, end of year meetings, things that got put off to finish it up. Then next week I'll be in French League from right after our class. Oh yeah, so next Wednesday, our normal formats will go for about an hour and 10 minutes or so, take a break, do another hour and 10 minutes. And then the rest of the time will be time that you should have blocked out on your schedule to learn game design. So I'll call it lab time. We'll finish the lecture and I'll just be sitting around in case anybody has any questions in the Zoom call and recordings and all that. The exception to that's going to be next Wednesday. I'll be leaving here around 2:30. So we'll just have like the first hour of class and then we'll break off and have lots of lab time. But that's, yeah, by then you all will, be a project to work on by then. So there'll be stuff, the time to work on stuff will be useful for that. Student life, yeah, clubs. It's fun to get involved in clubs and stuff. So make sure you're doing that around your campus. If there's ever an technology issue, like the school's technology, Ivy Learn, My Ivy, that's ed tech people. So there's the contact for the ed tech coordinator is here at Sellersburg. But every campus will have a unique ed tech coordinator. If you don't know who the one is at your local campus, I can look that up for you and just let me know. Stuff there, library services, career link. Has to be something turned in by next Tuesday is when I'll submit names. I go, this person never showed up for class, never anything. But if you're if you're here, I'll count that as showing up. Or if you're in Washington D.C. right now and already told me you weren't going to be here today, and watch the recording afterwards, yeah, I know that you're participating. So that doesn't really apply to anybody here, but that's a policy in all your classes. So make sure you're turning something in the first week. Quick rundown through the policies. Anybody have any questions or anything about those? For those who haven't had me in a couple semesters, the due date one is, it's much cleaner than it used to be. Because it was kind of a complicated system and they kept adding things over the years as different stuff happened. And it was like 3 or 4 paragraphs long and confusing. So hopefully it's a little cleaner, easier to follow now. Yeah, and there will be some changes to this still to come. I was in a rush to get the Ivy Online shell 95% finished so that I could import that and then put all the due dates on there at the last minute. Actually did while sitting in the lobby of a mechanic's garage, getting new shocks on my truck, and I did that Friday afternoon. So it was like at the last minute. So there's going to be some changes. One that anybody who's had me before knows I give every class a new technology report. I can just pull that up and kind of show you what it's going to be. I'll import it here before long. We got it on there. Couple of assignments, yes. No matter what field you're in, random assignments. No matter what field you're in, it's important to stay up to date. And that's even more exaggerated in technology, technology-based. This subject kind of stands out, right? Game hardware changes very, very quickly. So we need to be up to date on it. So there's a small writing assignment, new technology report. far as writing it, 1 to 2 pages, MLA, APA, as long as it has the standard formatting, if you do it written way, but we can do better than writing, right? Here are a bunch of links, the things that used to be magazines. I don't think any of them actually put out paper versions anymore, so they're websites, but they still release articles and stuff. Something to get you started, and it is a report, right? You don't have to come up with a thesis and then support it with, it's just, think of a news report or a newspaper, or like the articles on those things there. It's just reporting the new technology. It's like, oh, new GPU comes out, a little bit better than the last one. Or just, yeah, a paragraph or two on 3 new technologies that have come out recently. So 1 to 2 pages. But we can do better. If you want to make a video, right? Think of a news report, sit down and make a video, deliver it like a news report on that new technology. Or a blog, that's a nice easy one. I linked to this old video, this is probably out of date. I might need to update that, but it goes into Google Pages and walks through how to set up a blog on Google Pages. Somebody doesn't know how to set up a website and or a podcast. Not really sure about podcasts. I've been having trouble tracking down good instructions from them. From like English teachers and other like what formal instructions would be. So I don't really know what formal instructions to give for a podcast. I think everybody's heard of a podcast before, right? Just turn on your mic and talk about the new technology for a couple minutes. Same the amount of content that would be a 1 to 2 page report. One thing I do know about can say about podcasts is you don't want to write your script ahead of time. I'm sure everybody's heard that before too. When somebody's reading from a script on a podcast, it is very, very obvious that they're reading from a script, and it gets pretty monotone pretty quickly, and the pace never changes. It's very obvious when somebody's reading from a script. So collect the information and then talk freely is one thing I can say. I may have better instructions soon. I did just learn that Hanover College apparently has started a podcast class in their English department. So maybe I can reach out. I know some people that teach there, so I'm hoping maybe I can reach out to them and see what sort of instructions are given. It would be a good summary for a podcast.
Scripting it if someone was a drama kid or something, they try would do really well because they could memorize them and just look at it.
Yes. Yeah, obviously that doesn't apply to anybody that would qualify as a professional voice model and could and knows how to do that. But for most of us, reading from a script is going to be very obvious that we're reading from a script. So that one, that's one that will be in there, and that's just due by the end of the semester. And it is one that very often I can tell people did it at like 10 o'clock on Sunday night, the last day of the semester is, and get all the points on the assignment. So don't stress about that. It's just know it's there. Let's see. So through the modules, kind of preview the class a little bit more, and then we'll start doing stuff after a break. I want to go 1.5 after before we take a break here today. A template that the course, all the statewide courses follow. Has anybody seen this new template? More colorful and links everywhere, cleaned up. It's just starting to make its way into the stuff. So the GitHub engine 4.4 is out now. If you have an earlier version, probably there shouldn't be any incompatibility issues. There's a few improvements and stuff. Always something changing, but so one important thing with game engines, not just this one, but all game engines, it's even more important than some other game engines. Never change the version mid-game. Um, in Unity, it's just completely unrealistic to do so. You can try if the version numbers don't line up, it's not gonna work. We struggle and fight with it for a long, long time. It's one of the reasons the class stopped using it. At least the online shell. A couple people around the state might still use it. Yeah, so we download this. Godot has pretty good compatibility. Unreal has been trying to keep compatibility, but there's still some issues because their improvements are so impressive. The previous one probably isn't going to work. So it's almost across the board for game engines. Never change your version mid-game. So keep whatever version you are. So as a result of that, all of our game engines allow us to get back to older versions too. So get to older ones.
So no.
A couple weeks ago. Okay, that was 2 weeks ago. Yes. Yeah, so when I started that core shell, it was on 4.3, and the documentation was showing 4.3, and then was being changed over. So I was putting those reading assignments together, which is another thing. If with those knowledge check questions, please let me know if any of them seem bad, because what I did is I just fed the reading assignments, the links to the documentation. So I just fed that in AI and asked it to write questions about the reading assignment. I tried to read over them, but I threw out quite a few questions. But there's always a chance some might have slipped past. Okay. Once that's downloaded, you just extract, unzip the folder, and the application's right there. Unlike some of our other game engine editors, the Godot editor was actually made with Godot. So it usually runs really quick and efficient and on almost any system because it's an export from a game engine, not some other software with a graphical user interface that somebody put together to control a game engine in a different language in the background. So there's two of them here on Windows one. Sometimes Linux and Apple don't have the console one. The console is where you would do it all in text files. Right? The editor writes text files for us. It just generates a lot of files. We'll look at some of them here shortly. We could type those files and leave out some of the extra overhead and stuff. Because of our time constraints, we're really not going to dive into that, and that is engine specific. And we have to have an engine to use to do the examples in, but we want to generalize the knowledge here, so we don't want to get too deep into the engine specific stuff. But if you wanted to type it all in text files and then jump into your terminal and compile it and run it from there, that's what the console one does. And the other one, just double click the app, maybe move it somewhere over in the downloads folder. Not really a lot that needs done there. Oh, and notice I already put one in here. Yeah, so I just downloaded it. I moved it over to the documents folder and then ended a shortcut to the taskbar. That way it's always quick to open. They'll recognize it, yes. So let's see, let me delete this in-game project. I don't need that. So when we create a new project, notice there's no open button. So what you do when you want to open stuff is you scan, and it'll go look through the folders and find the files it recognizes, and then bring that in so you can open it from there. Creating a new one, we have a couple options. Forward Plus compatibility has the best graphics capabilities. We'll look at shaders a little bit here. Not gonna do a lot with shaders beyond some small follow along examples, but it also only runs on desktop. Mobile phone, probably want compatibility mode. So if you go to compatibility mode, that'll give us the HTML exports. That's a really useful one. So everything's got a browser on it. Makes it a lot easier to run. And then there's a drop down for version control. We're going to use Git for the version control, and your submissions will be made through GitHub. So there's a plugin so that you have a bunch of buttons here in the editor for the control Git. There's a video I put in the learning materials about doing that and using a couple lines in the terminal. The Git plugin wants to use SSH connections to GitHub, and that turned it into like a 45-minute video. After I finished that, I was like, no, that's no good. No one wants to watch that longer video. So I deleted that one, and then instead of using the SSH connection, just use 2 lines in the terminal, and it turned it into like a 10-minute video. So we'll use that. Draw submissions through GitHub. We'll kind of walk around, do this after the break, but we have everything is the terminology we use in this engine. We build up a hierarchical tree scene. We call everything scenes. So nodes, the pre-built components that we'll work with. Lots and lots of them to work through. I will probably send out a video. I'll send out a video as we wrap up today that has all of the nodes. Just like not one to like really try to take notes and follow along. So I'll send it out and after class, and something to watch at double speed just to get a preview of all the stuff that's there, see what they're there, what they're doing. So, in preview mode, all the different nodes we have to work with, and then we combine nodes up into scenes. And then once we build a scene, that scene can be used as a node in a different scene. Tree-like structures. There'll be pictures drawn on the board and talk about memory usage and things like that. I would do that. A lot of settings. We'll kind of go through this with an actual example before long. The other software, Blender, be a couple weeks before we get to Blender. I think the first one is week 4, maybe 5, where we make the stuff for our pool simulation. Just download and run an installer on that when it's all pretty set up pretty nice. And when we're working on that, Blender and Godot are fully integrated. So we don't have to do any fancy exports or anything. Godot can read the Blender files. It doesn't have as good of rendering engines. So like if you do, people that know Blender, if you do photorealism in Blender, it's not going to be photorealistic when you bring the model over into Godot, but they are fully integrated. So you don't have to do anything special on those. And for 2D software, I use this open source alternative to Adobe Illustrator. Inkscape's got lots of functionality. It has all the functionality we want. As long as you get them installed, in the chat it is asked to, doesn't matter if we install them through Steam or some other way. As long as they get installed, I believe both of them are on the Microsoft Store and the Apple Store, so you grab them that way if you want to. This is the software I'll be using for examples. It draws SVG, which has some really nice advantages. And then yeah, we'll see that soon. And it has a whole lot of filters, kind of like Adobe Illustrator, if anybody's worked with that, so that we can take our basic shapes and start applying materials and make things look really, really nice just by applying filters to them. Filters and materials. So you'll want to download the appropriate installer and for your system and get that on there as well. And it's not required for this class, but since there are graphics requirements,
There's comments on the chat.
oh yeah. We're doing this video on stuff. Yeah, it's not required for this class, but since there are graphics requirements, okay, yeah, these sort of pins can make a big difference. This is the one I've been really happy with lately. It's in the like $35 range. That's the one that's linked there. There's 6 reprogrammable buttons, and then the pin's really comfortable to use and stuff. They come in all sorts of price ranges. It was just last week, so I also linked to the cheapest one I found on Amazon. I think it was like $19. It used to be $14. For those here on campus, I don't know if it'll be in, hopefully it'll be in during our class, but with some grant money this year, I did order some for us to use in this class. So I will have, for those who come to campus, there'll be, yeah, I bought some for the program this year, so. But I don't know when they'll come in, and it was with grant money, so then once they get shipped in, somebody has to put stickers on them and add it to the database. And hopefully that'll be here before the end of the semester. But the first graphics time is due next week, so I have a couple I can bring in, but not a requirement. It makes things a lot easier. I'm not signed into Amazon. This is the one I just held up. Yeah, $38, and you get 6 reprogrammable buttons on the tablet, and 2 or 3 reprogrammable buttons on the 2 reprogrammable buttons, plus you can put them down together on the pen. I don't know if that should count as 2 or 3, but you can make those like keyboard shortcuts and
2 buttons, but 3 puzzles.
yeah, then it's like you're drawing with a pen, or when you get in 3D modeling and go to like the sculpting things, like you're carving into the clay with an actual chisel, and it's a lot easier than a mouse. Not a requirement. I'm not gonna ask people to spend money, but it will make those assignments considerably easier. Yeah. I'll bring in a couple of my own as well. At least 2 that work. I'll have to test them to make sure they all work and stuff, and that way we have them for doing graphic stuff. Just a few notes there. I was just passing time waiting for the clock to hit 10 after. Probably a good time for a break.
In the chat on Zoom, someone asked if it matters if you install the daily one through Steam.
Oh, I saw that. That's fine, as long as they're installed. I thought I answered it, didn't I? Oh, yeah, I thought I answered it. Maybe I just planned to answer it or something. Yes, as long as the software is installed. Okay. Yeah, any way you can get it, it's fine. Real quick, on the chat. Okay. If anybody wants to send me a direct message, the computers in the lab here. This is the one that's actually signed in with my full name, like Christopher S. But I'm only using this because of the cameras and microphone in the room. I'm standing over here on the laptop, so if anybody wants to send a direct message or something, make sure you send it to Chris PC or Chris Mac or Chris Chromebook, whichever computer I have that day. Make sure it goes to the laptop I have. There's another thing, you know, when Blender can run even on a Chromebook. A few high schoolers how to put it on Chromebooks locked down by schools. So this software should run on anybody's machine. We don't need a $3,000, excuse me, at least a $3,000 machine to run it, like we would with Unreal Engine. If anybody's wondering why the class doesn't use Unreal, it's because this is a community college and I'm not gonna ask people to buy a $3,000 computer. And there's an alternative. Okay, yeah, let's take a break. 10 minutes sound good to everybody? See some big head nods here. So my laptop says 2:13. We'll get back to it at 2:23. See how long it's going. I'm gonna get a sip of coffee.